it's Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back. And for those of you who are new subscribers, welcome. This is the next part. I don't know what number I'm on yet right now, but this is the next part of the series of my making a journal from start to finish. It's a black and white, the kit I'm using is called Silhouette by Tracy Fox. Love junk journaling. And so I think we'll just call this Silhouette. The first couple videos we did the cover. Here's the cover. And then in the next few videos I worked on the pages, the signatures. There'll be 3 signatures in this. And then in the last video I worked on some decorations for where to put pockets. As I flip through this, there's not where to put pockets, and added some stamps and some stenciling somewhere in here. There's a stamp. And so just did some light decoration to the inside pages. And now which by the way, I do before I sew in my signatures. I know that that's a question I've seen asked several times. Do you decorate your pages before or after you sew in your signatures? And I primarily do that before I sew in my signatures for a couple of reasons. One, that kind of helps me determine what my thickness is going to be of the book. And as I'm going along, I like to make sure that I'm not going to have a huge alligator going on. This particular one is, it's going to be pretty hefty, but I still have, you know, it's not too bad. So it'll be closable, put it that way. And the next thing I do now, which I'm ready for in this video, is, there's a glare there, so that's why that cloth is there. Next thing I'm gonna do is sew in the signatures. So let me get this out of the way. Let me tell you what I've done. When I sew in the signatures, I create a template. This is a template. The 2 lines here on the outside represent the width of my spine. So whatever spine I've got, or whatever I decide I'm going to do, I measure on the inside the width here. And then this is a grid paper. It's 8, so it's 1/8. Each square represents 1/8 of an inch. I like 1/8 because it gives me plenty of counting space for me to get everything spaced right. So I've got 2 lines here representing the width. This particular, see if you can see that. This particular book is 1.5 inches. And then I've got a center line. So I come in from the 2 sides and find the center. Then from there, I measure down 1 inch and I put a dot in the center, down 1 inch, and up 1 inch from the bottom. So those are my first two dots that I put on here. Then from there, I put a dot in the very center, and then I do one halfway between dots number 1 and 3, and I do another one halfway between dots number 3 and 5. I do a 5-hole stitch. I used to do, or I have done 3-hole stitch, and I'm just not as happy with the stability of it. So I like 5. Everybody likes something a little different, and I don't mind the extra few stitches to make sure that the book is well put together. From there, I cut a piece of, this is craft text. There's also, I think it's Sizzix that makes paper called leather paper. Same thing. It's craft text, and you can get a pack of it. I get an 8.5 by 11 sheet pack in different colors. So depending on what color my outer book is, sometimes I use brown, sometimes I use black. And so I don't know what my dog is barking at, but she is clearly upset about something. And so I cut my craft text the same size. Then I score where the fold will be. So this is the spine, and these are the 2 sides that will glue into the inside front and inside back covers. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this together, and I'm kind of just make sure I've got it lined up to the best that I can. And I'm just going to punch some holes where I've made my marks. Then I'm going to take this same template that'll have the holes in it, and I'm going to use that template to punch the holes in my book. So let me get my awl out and some foam to punch into, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. You didn't even notice I was gone, did you? All right, so now I'm just going to line this up, make sure that I've got my pieces straight, and I'm just going to start punching. This is not exciting, but it's very simple to do. Just going to go down and hit each one of my dots, which in some cases are not quite lined up to the crosshair. And then once I get this done, I'll have a template that I use for the individual signatures. And then I will sew them in. All right, there's my template. And I'm just going to go back in and punch these holes just a little bit deeper, just so that I have plenty of space. I want to be able to see my holes, and this paper tends to sort of heal up on you a little bit, so this just makes it that much easier for me to get those holes in there. I don't want them too big, but I do want them big enough that I can see them and easily sew in and out. You can also flip this over and push from the other side so that the paper that it pushes through is more flat over here, but it doesn't really matter to me. I've tried it both ways, and 6 to 1, half dozen the other, right? Okay, I think that does it. And I think you can see those holes now. You can see they're a good size, plenty visible. So there's that. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside because I don't need that quite yet. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold down my center line. And I'm just going to come in here and fold this in half. I probably could have done this before I put the holes in, but that's okay. And now this becomes the template that I use for poking holes in the individual signatures. So before I start poking any holes, what I'm going to do is flip through and make sure that my pages are lined up the way that I want them to be. And this one is not. So what I'll do is kind of tap from the bottom, and then as I flip through, I'll adjust up and down from there. Okay, so this first one I want it to be more centered. There we go. That's good. Good. This one, it doesn't matter to me where it is, but let's see if we can line it up. There we go, so that it kind of hits, just so it kind of just covers that butterfly. Same with this one. We'll line it up like that. Line that one up. And this one, I think I can go kind of in the center. And then I've got one more here. Okay, so I made sure they're lined up the way I want them. I want this one up a little bit higher. Yeah, a little bit more. There we go. And now, oh, whoops. Hold on. I got them all lined up and realized I'd forgotten to grab my clips. Okay, so once I line them up, I just come in and clip each of the 4 sides together. Now this piece in the center is shorter, so I'm just going to have to kind of hold it while I'm punching. just to make sure it doesn't move on me, because my clip doesn't go far enough in. This one of these days I should try to find. So I've got those clipped, and I've got everything sort of pretty much nicely aligned. Now what I want to do, actually, now I just realized I should have done this beforehand. I want to mark the top. I think this was the top. So I'm going to put a T on here and a T on here. So I'm using the same top across everything. And now my T, this page goes like this. The T goes like this. So I'm going to line that up right in the center, like so. And my guide is the same height as the spine, but these are going to be slightly shorter. So I just want to make sure that I'm right in the middle. And then I just start punching. Line up the awl to, I start with the center, and I just sort of push the book down and push the awl out. And you can kind of see it here. At the same time, I'm going to go to the next one. I tend to go down first. I don't think it matters. I'm going to push that through nicely. And then I'm going to do the next one. Down. And try not to move my clip as I go. There we go. And then the next one. By folding this closed while you're punching the hole, I think it allows you to get in the center, and I just moved that. So let me try to line it back up again. There we go. And you know, inevitably, as soon as you try to record one of these types of videos, you realize that you've done something completely wrong. There we go. All right. So now I've got my holes in here, and this is ready to go. So I'm going to set this one. Actually, I'm not going to set it aside. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in and get this one sewn in. I'll do this first one, and then I will probably do the rest of them off camera. It's not the most exciting thing in the world to watch. So once one's done, I think you'll get the idea from there. Let's see, looking for my thread. Here it is. I don't use a waxed thread. I don't think it's necessarily necessary, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. And I'm almost out of thread, actually. But I'm going to pull my thread to be approximately 3 times the length of the height of my book. And then I just snip that off. And get a needle out. These are bookbinder needles, so they're a nice size. I just keep them back in there. Thread the needle. This is the fun part. Luckily, the needle hole is big enough that I usually don't have any problem seeing. Okay, got my needle. This is the first signature. You can work front to back, back to front. It wouldn't really matter much. Start with the center. You're going to go from the inside of the book out to the center. I'm going to make sure I'm looking at this straight up. So now I want my T to be up at the top. And now I'm in the first signature, so I'm going to punch through the craft text into the first center hole here. Okay. I'm going to pull through and I'm going to leave a nice little length. And actually, sometimes what I like to do is just clip that back into the clip. So now I don't have to worry about losing it. From there, we're going to, see, this is so fidgety. Fidgety is a good word. We're going to go into the next hole down, and then we're going to go into the next hole down here. You got to fiddle with it a little bit sometimes. Sometimes it goes right in. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. It just kind of depends on, you know, whether or not you've moved a little as you were first putting it together. At this stage, it doesn't matter how tight you are, really. Just get it through. Then we're going to come back in to our bottom hole. It should be about there, like so. Watch the clip. I always seem to get hooked up on the clip here, which is exactly what I've done. All right, now I'm going to come back in this second hole up from the this I'm going to come back in here. So go to the second hole and come back into the same hole and back into the same hole from the side too. There's not a good way to show this to you. There we go. Maybe that's better. And I'm trying to find the hole, which sometimes is way more. There we go. You can feel it when you've kind of landed in that space. Now I'm going to start to pull a little tighter. Not too tight, but just a little bit. I'm going to come up and I'm going to skip over the center hole, which would be the next one up. And I'm going to come up to this second hole. And I'm going to come out that second hole. And back here. So I have an extra length now. This skips a hole, but otherwise I've stitched directly. Now I'm going to come up to the first top hole, come back in here. Trying to make sure I'm on camera. This is tough. It's not hard, it's just, you know, like right now, I've kind of got it halfway through the hole. There it goes. Like I said, you can tell when it catches or when you get it in there. Now I'm going to go back down into that second hole. Oops, well, I was there. Okay, and now I'm going to come back up to the middle. And I see how this isn't tight. It will be. It will be. And last one. Come on. There we go. Nope. Nope. Every once in a while you get a booger. Every once in a while you get a booger. Of course I get one on film, right? It just doesn't want it. There we go. Yeah, got it. Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna come back through. All right, now what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that the last string I pulled through and the first one are on opposite sides of this string in the middle. So I'm going to come underneath this. So now they are on, and I can take my needle off if I want to. Now they are on opposite sides. And I don't need that anymore. So here we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everything is tight. This last one is not very tight. So we're going to pull it a little bit more. And then we're going to pull, check it. Everything up, that one's a little loose. So let's do the same thing there. Okay, now I'm pretty snug. Now I'm going to check the back again. And I'm pretty snug. All right. So now I've got, remember, I've got these two ties, the beginning and the end, coming out of the same center hole, but there's a string between them. That's very important. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and tie pretty tight a knot. So I'm going to tie it twice. And there you go. That's it. Now some people leave these dangle and put charms or things at the end of your strings. You certainly can. Does not matter. I'm just going to snip these off short, and the first signature is now in the book. So I can take these off, take my clips off, and I've got the first one. Here's my T for my top. Here's my top, and the first one is in and ready to go. So now I can do the next two the same way, and hopefully I won't have as much trouble with that last one. And I'm just going to continue on. I'll be back when I get that finished. Okay, I'm back. I've got the signatures all sewn into my piece of craft text, and as I was putting them in, I realized that I sort of made a boo-boo on my, once I've done my stencil, I actually cut the craft text height to match the height of my tallest signatures so that I end right, I don't have any lip here on the top and bottom. So I trimmed that off. I actually took a little sliver off the sides too, so that when I glue this in, I won't have to worry about lining up the end papers, and you'll see what I mean later. Next, normally what I would do is put a piece of cheesecloth on this with some glue, have it kind of stick out just a little bit. But I've got this piece of this handkerchief that is a piece of a vintage handkerchief, and it's got this little lip on it. You can see that is just really pretty. And so what I thought I would do is put this on the spine so that it pokes out on the book, and you'll I think understand what I mean here in just a minute. So I'm gonna get my Fabri-Tac out, and I'm going to just put some glue here. If I can get it to come out. There it goes. And I'm going to kind of dab some glue into these holes. It just gives it a little bit of more stability. I'm not afraid of glue. I'm not afraid of you, glue. I'm going to take one of these pieces. Let's see, let me think about this. I want this edge. Got to figure out which this is the back side, so that's what'll go towards the book. That's what goes forward. Okay. I'm going to set that right there. Flip it around. Make sure I'm hitting right on the edge. I can come over this way just a little bit. There we go. Right in the center. There's little loop-de-loops on this. There's 5 little loop-de-loops. So the center of my center signature is lined up with that center of the center there. That's the nice thing about odd numbers like that. Easy to line, well, even numbers would have been easy to line up too. Anyway, easy to line up. So I'm just gonna let that kind of get into that glue, and it bleeds through, obviously. This is a very thin little handkerchief, but that's okay, because this will not be seen. This will be in the book. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish gluing the rest of this piece down. And, or not. Come on now, don't be problem. Don't be a problem, be nice. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish gluing that piece, and then I've got another piece that I'm gonna meet it up with in the middle. And it doesn't matter if I've got a little bit hanging off the edge, it will not show either. Anything that's inside this black craft text lining will be touching the inside of the book cover, and so it won't show. All right. If you do something like that, you probably don't want a real thick fabric. This is obviously, you can tell by the way it's bleeding, it's extremely thin. And you can see my fingers through it. Cheesecloth, same way, extremely thin. All right, now I want to make sure I get these going the same direction. And I'm going to do the same thing, and this should, yeah, I mean, I'm just shy, but that'll be fine. Same thing, I'm going to get some glue into these, try to kind of dab those holes nicely, just to give it a little bit of stability. And then I will pat this down. Easier to do it from this side, I think. And I don't know if you can see what I see. Okay, now I'm just going to come back here and pat that down. It's bleeding again, but that's okay. And now I'll come in and finish her up. And then this will be ready to glue in. So if when I do cheesecloth like this, what I normally will do is just fold the end a little bit. And that just, like I said, it kind of strengthens your strings on the inside. I think it helps wobble and wiggle, wobble, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. You may remember those. Are they still around? Are weebles still around? Am I probably aging myself now? Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Okay. And it's okay that this is sticky because more glue is going to go on this. I just want to make sure that I've got my little lace poking out lined up. And then just to give you an idea of what this will look like, this is going to go in here. If I can get it straight. Lined up. What would help if I didn't bend my fabric. And so it'll look something like, you can see that. Okay, I'm back. We plugged in for a few minutes, got a little bit more charge going. And so now real quick, I'm going to glue this into this. So what I'm going to do, make sure I've got my front to my front. And they're both going in the right direction. Okay, got it. Now I'm just going to saturate this back piece, just the panel, not these side flaps yet. Just gonna give it a good gluing. And then I'm gonna get it centered into the book. And then I will glue the little side flaps. So that's the plan. I'm sticking with it. So just getting some nice saturation here. This is actually easier for me anyway. If I have more glue on, it can ooze out. That's fine. It's not so difficult to clean up afterwards, and it moves around. So it's easier for me to squish it around and get it centered, to have more glue as opposed to glue that's going to kind of really set up and dry pretty quick on me. I need more time. Okay. This is, again, this is sort of fidgety. I like that word, fidgety. But basically what I want to do is I want to get everything centered this way and this way. Sometimes easier said than done. Sometimes it's pretty easy to do. I added a little ring here that should be pretty much dead center that I'll put a charm on later. And so I'll kind of use that as my center guide here. And the little lace that I put on the end is going to hit right on the edge, so that ought to help too. And then down here, I just have to do the same thing. Make sure they're lined up and that the score marks that I put in this piece line up nicely with the score marks, you know, the natural score, not a score, but the book. Around. Okay, now I'm going to go in and start pushing down on all these pieces with my bone folder. And I'm going to come to the middle of each one of my signatures and push down, rub there as well. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. And I'm kind of keeping these upright a little bit because I don't want to put any pressure on this yet until we are glued in. So I'm just rubbing. It looks like my score mark lined up pretty well there. Turn this back around. And it looks like it lined up pretty well there too. So I think we're in good shape. I'm going to come back in and do some more rubbing here. Use the fat part of the bone folder. I'm just going to keep doing this until the glue is pretty much set. It's not going to pull away from me. I'm going to check to make sure there's no glue kind of oozing out here on the top and bottom, and there's not. Doesn't matter about the sides. If it were, it wouldn't matter. Close this, push down on the spine. Make sure those pages are getting adhered in there nicely. And this is not a hidden spine. I'm gluing it directly into the spine. Working with these Reader's Digest books, sometimes the spines are so flimsy anyway, and I don't redo them. I use the whole book as is, even though I add book tape and some reinforcements to the spine. I think it's just as easy, works just as well to do it this way. You can see that little lace poking through up here at the top. It's cute, right? That was pretty much the exact right size. It worked out very nicely. I'm happy with it. I'm happy, 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 happy. Okay. I feel like that's pretty good. Okay. Yay. Look, isn't that pretty, little fan? All right, now what I'm going to do is come back in and glue this flap down on both sides. So, it'll be a little bit, let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. I got a lot of goobers there. Just little fibers. I don't want that to pull away, so I'll stop messing with it now. Just get some glue in here. And this is where I tend to, this is where I tend to ooze. So I'm gonna go take a line right down that edge and then come up and and then just skip across. Okay, whoopsie, it started pulling away. No. All right, I'm gonna keep gluing. And I will be back. Okay, while I've got glue all over my hands, I'm gonna go ahead and finish. I've got this glued here, and I've got it glued here. And the book lays, it doesn't, well, it would lay flat. Let's see if I can find the center of the center here. There we go. It's not going to lay completely flat, only because I've got this extra dimension on the front, but you can see that it lays flat when I'm not on a surface. so there. So it's good. Everything is good and glued. We're just about dried. We've got our little piece there. And our signatures look like they're in the center. When the book's closed, nothing's peeking out. Not that it would matter if it was, but in this particular case, it's not. So I'm ready to put the end papers in.